Meeting 7 o'clock, I'll call the Finance Committee meeting to order. Tonight we only have 5 articles in front of us. And we're gonna get an explanation of the water rate analysis for the recommended increases. He won't be in until maybe 7:30. He's fighting traffic, I'm sure, probably through the city. So for now, let's take up Article 7. Article 7, to see what sum of money the town will vote to raise and appropriate for the sewer enterprise fund for the ensuing fiscal year 2026. They had their meeting Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. And, let me see, this is water. There's so much stuff. Which one is this sewer?
It's green.
Thanks. Thank you. So. So, correct me if I'm wrong, Wendy, the motion to recommend $6,941,843. Sources of funding, $6,314,802 from the sewer revenue user charges, and $627,036 from 7/1/24 certified retained earnings in the sewer department. Do I have a motion to recommend that for Article 7?
So moved.
Motion's made, seconded by the chair. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The other one that we can do while we're waiting for laws is Article 2. To see what sum of money the town will vote to raise and appropriate for town charges for the ensuing fiscal year 2026.
So, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, so just a couple of minor changes. With the schools, the appropriation, as you know, we appropriated, I think, $750,000 Monday. It's another $1 million appropriation in here, so it's been increased to $1 million, and that doesn't include the $1 million increase with health insurance on the indirect costs. So it's, somewhere almost a $3 million increase with the schools. What else did we increase? Just some other minor increases, but that's, adjustment to the fire department, vocational assessment, debt service, and, both principal and interest. So they're listed, the changes are in that 4th or 5th page behind the source and usage document for the committee's reference.
The package something, I was wondering something.
That little piece of paper, Mr. Chairman, that says it's missing.
Oh, that's the one that I'm missing?
Right here.
And that's the one I need for the motion.
Yeah.
Thank you. No.
That's just the adjustments.
Oh, okay.
It's just the school department and,
Oh, these are the adjustments that we
Yeah.
had made?
from when we went over this, all
When
these
we
last couple
originally-
months. Yep.
Okay. And what is the motion for?
Is that it? So this is number one, Wendy?
That's one.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion,
It'll be fresh.
No, it was. On this one.
Okay.
The motion will be for $119,518,511. 84,749,976 for the municipal department operational budget, and 34,768,535 for the school department budget. Do I have a motion to recommend that?
I'll make a motion.
Motion's made, seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So Terry, it looks like 1 million more than last year's school budget. So
The
that's-
school, just to go be clear, the school is, we appropriated 750,000 that you guys recommended on Monday. This is another $1 million, so that's 1.75 million that's been appropriated.
Oh, okay.
Or will be if town meeting approves this. That doesn't include the indirect cost of the health insurance and the $1 million
Oh, okay.
increase just for the health insurance for the school employees
Gotcha.
that we pay on their behalf.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
in preparation of the presentation, if everyone goes towards the back of their packet and pulls out, starting from here to the end of the packet, this will be what the Abrahams group will be going over with us tonight. Just on the number.
I'll use this stuff.
I can move this.
Wendy, what was that page again?
I tried to put them in order that we would,
No, that's fine. That's like, I think this is all part of this stuff. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we could, I guess, take a recess if we needed to, I guess. If we wait a couple of
We
minutes.
could, but that says, she said about 7:25, so,
yeah, it's only
Yeah.
7:08.
but we can take a slight recess if you want. If I have a motion to recess,
Make a motion to recess.
seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's made, seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're back in session, you're all set whenever you're ready, boss.
Yeah, he's not plugged in.
Oh,
No, we don't need it, Donna.
Good.
Maybe we should go over one of the other communities first. I don't think they're gonna buy me.
We could. Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Abrahams. I'm from the Abrahams Group. Back with you for another year of looking at water rates and the state of the water enterprise fund. We have some slides to run through for you this evening. Ultimately settling presumably on a rate to be voted for the upcoming fiscal year of FY '26. Thank you everyone for your patience. I know you went on a recess while waiting for me, and appreciate that. I wish I could've gone here a little bit earlier.
Was it the parking?
Because of what Wendy told me, I just parked right away, I didn't even look, and I just walked. It's a nice night for a walk, actually. Okay, so we're gonna cover the state of the fund, how things look. We'll project for you a few years into the future. We're gonna go over a little bit of the recent past as well, ultimately showing you some rate options for your consideration this evening. Even though we present multiple years of looking into the future, we want you to focus on setting a rate for FY '26. However, we do present rates for the future years, just so you're aware of what the entire 5-year look looks like. For anyone who's been on this committee and been in one of my presentations before, there's nothing new there. It's the same type of setup that we normally do for you. The first slide is a 10-year review. It's actually, this is the 10th year that the 10th consecutive year that we've worked with the town of Saugus on water rates and sewer rates as well. So we now have a complete 10-year look. This first slide shows you the rate changes over the last 10 years. As you can see, for several years in the middle of this table, there was consistent action, but not huge numbers there, including the 1 year of 0%, no change, when the rate increase that was supported by this group was not supported by town meeting, at 1 year of 0%. The last few years, as you can see, the rate increases have been a little bit higher than the years that preceded that, and we'll be again focused on an increase in that area again for FY '26.
So I don't know if I missed, I had to step out real quick to take something important, but what I did want to mention, Mr. Chairman, through you, is so that we understand is, one of the big things that we're doing, that I think that everybody has to really recognize, and I think it's a really great thing for the ratepayers and people that are paying on water and sewer, is that we're doing a $6 million water meter replacement program, which is needed. That $6 million would have generally and normally been put onto the rates. So in other words, it would have been split, water and sewer, that would have had a significant impact on raising rates. One of the things that we strategically did is we held ARPA monies and earmarked that for this project, so it's being paid for through the American Rescue Act. So that's gonna be a big deal, and I think, you know, whatever everybody considers about, oh, it's a rate that no one wants to increases, but I think we obviously want a goal of having rates generate enough revenue to be able to pay for our operating expenses, debt service, et cetera. But I think that's something to keep in mind, that I think that people should be able to enjoy and say, you know, this is great that we're able to strategically use the money for that. Other communities use the money for different things. This is something I think that every resident can enjoy, of not having the impact of that, so.
Well, before we continue, and I don't want to hold up this presentation, but I've been aware of that, and with our conversations, you, Wendy, and myself, I think that was a great job that you did, a great job that Wendy and the staff did in controlling that funding mechanism where there's no impact to the water rate users in the community for these new meters, which are going to be state of the art. I mean, just a great job. I mean, I hope the rest of the community is as happy as I am that is happening.
Yeah, there was pressure to do other things with it, and, you know, we just thought this would be the best thing, because it gives us the most impact of paying for something that's an expensive project, that's a, you know, we've been working on it for 3 years. It just started going, and people are gonna get notices to be able to, it's a mandatory, they're gonna be going out and changing the meters out.
Yeah, great job. It's just an incredible.
And you guys appreciate it, and I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman, as well as from the Finance Committee, because not everybody understands that stuff, they gloss over a little bit. And just to tie that in with the, like we talked about this one of the other meetings, it's the same thing we're doing with the trash, you know, the hauling of trash and recycling. We had such a good contract that I negotiated back, you know, 6 years ago, that we're saving $1 million and up until the last couple of years, $1.5 million a year. So that money, $1.5 million, is going somewhere else within our operating budget. Now that changes because we gotta renegotiate, but same thing, I don't know if people really understand that part of it. And it's you know, it's things that are beneficial to us to do other things in the town. That's how we can do playgrounds, and we wanna pay out the debt service for long-term capital stuff. So thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry.
No problem. No problem. Let's focus on these graphs just for a moment. The graph on the left shows historically what's happened over the last 10 years. The orange is revenue, the gray is expenses. And you can see that in the early part of this graph, the revenues were keeping up and even exceeding expenses for most of those years. And the recent past, revenues have dipped below expenses, haven't been keeping up quite as well. And the graph on the right, which is your retained earnings graph, reflects the same type of setup in that retained earnings built nicely over the initial part of that graph, and then in the recent past have started to dwindle down. The blue line there is what we consider to be the target, which is 10% of the fund expenses. And the green was well above the blue, started to come towards it and has now dipped below it. So that's another reason to consider rate action, because retained earnings aren't as plentiful as they have been in the recent past. Reviewing FY25 real quick, FY25 is the current fiscal year, it's not closed yet, but we do a projection related to it. We have projected user charges revenue up 8.7% over the prior year. The increase last year, rate increase for FY25 was 6%, so there's a little bit more in that number. We believe it's because of the weather patterns. If you think back to last summer was very dry at the end of the summer. Anyone who cares about their lawn or garden would have been watering under those conditions. And the prior year was not dry, it was a wet season. So it makes sense that user charges revenue would be up a little bit higher than the rate increase percent for that reason. Expenses, $487,000 increase over FY24, that's a 5.9% increase. And it's mostly due to salaries, the other expense area, and debt. For FY25, there $322,000 in retained earnings was needed to balance the budget. In other words, projected revenues were not enough to equal the water budget going into FY25. So an additional, that gap was closed by the $322,000 in retained earnings. However, because of the up revenue year, not all of it should be needed. We believe that only $114,000 of that $322,000 will be needed. However, still, there's some of that amount that will be needed. This next slide is also a look at FY25. What this is meant to show you is the left column is meant to show you what we thought FY25 looked like when rates were set last year at this time. And the rightmost column is our updated projections related to that, based on the latest numbers. So the way that I look at this mostly is the bottom number. We thought retained earnings would be $326,000 at the end of this fiscal year once it gets certified. Now we think that number will be a little bit higher because of the revenue year. We have it at $592 right now. These are just projections at this point. Rate study objectives. This slide is consistently in our presentation every year. It's the things we like to focus on. We target retained earnings 10%. Was used in the graph, but we target anywhere from 15% of the operating budget. We'll eliminate shortfalls. In other words, we like to see retained earnings not used to balance the budget, but as we know, it is retained earnings are currently being used to balance the water budget. So in order to eliminate shortfalls, rates need to be increased to a certain amount so that revenues cover the expenses. And we want to make sure that the full funding of the capital plan is included. What does the capital plan look like? Let's make sure that we include projected expenses to fund the capital plan, and we do that every year.
And so, obviously, Mr. Chairman, through you, we're pretty proactive with water and sewer, and we lay that out so that people can see what the 5-year capital plan is. Sometimes we push things off, sometimes we don't. We try to work on it, but we're doing stuff every year. And it's not other things that people don't see. But, people that don't have water pressure or people that have sewer issues, and things that build up, those create all kinds of emergency issues if we don't do preventive maintenance and do capital plans. And that's something we're pretty proactive on. So obviously our debt service has a lot to do with the rates, but I think people 30 years from now, when we're not here, will say that the town's in great shape. I mean, if you historically look at the town annual reports, they all talk about years ago, 40 years ago, there's all kinds of issues within the water system and the sewer system, and that there's a need for capital, and that where's the money gonna come from, what we're gonna do. So we're really sort of keep trying to chop at this every year and try to keep up with the preventive maintenance that prevents, emergencies that are costly, and this helps with long-term, systems working properly, So
So what's included in the capital plan, in other words, what we are funding in our analysis, is included on the screen for you now or in your handout. We've listed out for you the items that are in the capital plan that we factored into our analysis. So there's a compressor truck, copper lead rural water service, valve and hydrant replacement each year that's listed there. 2 water main replacement projects, booster station improvements, both the design phase and the construction phase, and a backhoe replacement. And as the town manager mentioned, the water meter replacement program is considered a capital item, but it's being funded by ARPA, so it doesn't factor into our analysis. There are other things that were authorized recently out of free cash, and I listed that here for you. Updating of the water report and 2 years' worth of valve and hydrant replacement. So that free cash is funding those items, meaning that the water fund does not need to.
Mr. Chairman, just to, I guess to touch on that, we do a ton of all our capital with pay-as-you-go, certified free cash, which is great for one-time use. But like one of the things that we're doing here is we're using this to do a water report to update that so that we can effectively look at what water mains that we get the best bang for the buck, how many houses it affects, how does it line up with the gas main in the street being torn up, or any other sewer work or whatever being done in that road. And we have a master plan that we're gonna be, updating with that so that we have more updated information. The report was done, probably a decade ago, and we're doing that in the sewer as well. So we're doing meters on the sewer so that, and that's being funded the same way. But like with the sewer, with the I&I, you put the meter on there so when it rains or it doesn't rain, it sees what the fluctuation is, and that's how they can determine what areas are the worst, where they realize that the storm water is infiltrating into our system, and we're paying to have that processed, through our pumping stations and inland water and sewer. So we're proactive. We always have, as you guys have always supported these type of analysis and reports. We've done it on lift stations, booster stations, and then each year we come back with a plan to say, okay, we're gonna chip this away. Each year we have a capital plan that we're doing. So we appreciate that support, but I just wanted to kind of give that background. And so these things we're doing aren't gonna hit the rate band or the rates.
Yep. So the funding of the capital plan is done by projected debt service. That's debt that is not currently on the books. We project that debt as part of our analysis. Over the 5 years that we look at into the future, FY 26 through FY 30, we have the total additional debt as $2.5 million. So if you were to average that out, it's $500,000 per year that is not on the books today. Rate setting drivers, the different expense areas, what do those look like over the next 5 years? Salaries increasing 5.5% for FY 26, but then we carry a 2.5% annual increase from there. The Andover assessment actually is going down just slightly for FY 26. And it was also down for FY 25 as well. So that's 2 years of decreases. That's not normal. So we have that normalizing in FY 27. It's just a projection at this point, but we have that going back up to where we would expect it to be in FY 27.
And then, Mr. Chairman, through you, just to kind of talk about that, because I always say this, and people just, I think, may not appreciate it as much. These water and sewer budgets are one of the most, enterprise accounts are most difficult to budget and to sort of project because of the weather, the usage, all that stuff has such an impact, and they're small budgets. So I think one of them's like 6 million, the other one's 8 million, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So those, they're being such a small budget, it has such an effect on if the use is down, and when the use is down, it creates such an issue with the revenue that we projected, even with us being really conservative. But Wendy and Matt, they put a ton of time in this, trying to figure this out. Like even with the sewer stuff, they're talking to Lynn Water and Sewer to talk to them exactly of what capital they're doing there, what they can project for cost. This is not these are not easy budgets. We're in a place that's much better than we've ever been. As you guys remember here, when we had the audit done with the other administration, they were using retained earnings that weren't even certified to balance a budget within the year that they shouldn't have been, because of the politics and not making good financial sound decisions. So I commend the Finance Committee and Town Meeting. For the most part, we've been pretty steady at trying to figure this out and project it. And if we give a little bit more and, another percent of an increase that we didn't want to do, it gets adjusted in the next year when we get the projections, but we've had a couple of years that there's been low, the usage and the billing has been down, and when the usage is, you know, and then if it rains, if it's wet, dry, but I just wanna emphasize that part, that this is not an easy, the overall general budget, much different, where you can look at historical costs, you can predict things, you can move money around. Here, you sort of, it's in an enterprise account, each one of these, the water and sewer, so it's much more challenging. Thank you.
So the projected debt we have going up in FY '27 by 24%, additional 24%-ish in FY '30. Their expenses 3.4%, and then the normal 2.1 from there. So the FY '26 budget is not that much larger than the FY '25, but you can see we're projecting a 7.7% increase in FY '27 to total expenses. That has a lot to do with the end of year assessment as well as the additional debt that we're projecting. The bottom note, the very bottom of the screen shows the additional debt service that we have coming on from the capital plan, 400,000 in '27, similar amounts in '28 and '29, but then bumps up to about $1 million in FY '30.
And again, we talk percentages, when it's a small budget, the percentage seems higher, so we like that we have a chart in here in each of the options so that we can talk about what the average residential user is and put it in dollars and cents so that people can understand what the impact is to their bill if you're an average residential user.
Yep, and on these projections for the impact on debt service, 27, 28, 29, and 30. 30 is significant. Are there any special projects of great significance that will be coming online? Or is this normalized maintenance of pipe replacements or valve replacements, pump replacements, things of that nature?
Mr. Chairman, I could probably tell you I could check exactly, but just by looking at this slide, I would guess it's tied to that water mains replacement project in
Yes.
FY '29 that we have up there.
Okay.
In the sense of the revenues. Because you
In the
guys-
sense of the debt service.
That's not FY '30, that's
That
it.
and if we go, when we go into construction on the booster stations.
Well, the thing is, it shouldn't be hitting that, right? The debt service wouldn't be hitting our, in this account, if we're paying.
No, it's not on this,
Oh,
this,
okay.
I was speaking as it
Oh,
was
okay.
going up.
Okay, all right.
I just wanted to know
Yeah.
what was the driving it.
Oh, okay, I misunderstood.
Okay, no, that's good, thank you.
Where are we now? So this slide shows all the projections that we've included in our analysis for the next 5 years, 26 through 30, but it assumes no revenue changes. In other words, the rates don't change. Now, that's not reality, but we do like to show you what that looks like. Retained earnings were last certified at $706,000. That happened sometime in the fall timeframe. So we still have a deficit for FY '25. We're projecting a year-end balance of about $592,000 for retained earnings. That is currently below the target. You saw that on one of the earlier slides. The same similar graph is shown here. The blue line is not above the target in this case at all, and with no revenue changes, it quickly continues to fall off. So based on our projections, we don't feel like there's enough retained earnings to make it through the next fiscal year without rate action. And now on to the different options that we have for your consideration. Option 1, we have as a 7% increase. On each slide for the options, we show an updated graph so you can see the blue actually trending towards the orange in this case. By the end of the 5-year period, if that rate plan that's shown is adopted, and those are annual changes. So that shows a 7% for FY '26, but then additional changes for each of the subsequent years shown of 6.25% increase. We always focus on the average residential user in the bill calculations that are shown in the bottom table. And we have a 7% increase to water rates for FY '26, representing a $20 increase per bill for the average residential user. That works out to be $40 per year because there are 2 bills per year right now with a 7% increase. Option 2 is a 6% increase. Do less now means you do more later, so you'll see higher increases in the outlying years.
And just a reminder, all we're doing it would be setting a rate for this year. These are just projections, they can change, but obviously I think we talked about before, I don't wanna beat a dead horse, but if you take a zero, you see what the effects are, you can never catch up, because it's all compounding. So these are what's projected to try to get us, I think, because of, our revenue, actuals, from the last couple of years.
6%, we have a $10 increase, which is $20 per year for the, oh, sorry, 17.
17.
Look at the wrong row. $17 increase for the average residential user, that's $34 per year.
In that option there, what are they using, what are we using for retained earnings?
Give that one.
So we're still using retained earnings, meaning the rates aren't producing enough.
Well, I'd like to know
$149,000.
two answers. One, the amount that's being used out of retained earnings, and what the projected retained earnings would be if this was implemented under the projections we have.
Yeah, I should probably put that on the slide in future years, that'd be a good idea. So option two, Wendy had $149,000 would be needed to balance that budget, even with the 6% increase.
And then where would that leave us for a balance?
At the end of year, with the projections going, what would the retained earning balance be projected?
As of now, we have about $442,000.
That's after using 140.
Yep.
And what percentage is that?
5%.
So, the
Okay.
goal is 10 to 15.
The graph shows it. Even with these increases, we have retained earnings continue to go down before it finally normalizes in kind of the middle time frame of the 5 years, and then starts to build up again.
So that would keep us at approximately 50% of what our normal goal would be.
Yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it looks like we're still dealing with some projections. Revenues still need to catch up with expenses.
Okay,
Rate option three is a 5% increase for FY '26, and if you do less now, you do more later. That's why the rate increases are showing higher in those outlying years. But as the town manager said, we're just focused on setting a rate for '26 right now. Average residential users bill, we have is $14 per bill, which is $28 per year. And to build off of that conversation, 5% increase means we're using about $230,000 in retained earnings to balance the budget. $362,000 would be our projected balance, which is 4.1%.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, those are all the slides we have for this
Thank you,
evening,
Matt.
so happy to answer any questions or take any comments.
And in your packet, there's obviously detailed backup.
Right.
Is our average user rate actually $281? Is from the people that I've spoken to over the past year, it's not, their bills haven't been $281.
It
Twice a
must be
year.
part of tier
So
three.
per two
That's
twice a
peer.
year.
That's
Is it-
peer two.
is it
They're
po-
probably peer three, tier three.
Is it possible that they're combining water and sewer when they say that?
Well, yeah, I mean, the way the bills come out, so yes, okay.
So you'd have to take what the average sewer,
And they're probably tier
what's
three.
the average sewer?
This is tier two. The average person is on tier two. There are other people that are on tier three. The last time I remember, I thought Matt had said it was about 20%,
I think it was 40-something, I think, for tier 1 and 2.
tier three.
We had the number, I think, last year.
No, that's right, I was thinking
I did
the
that
combined bill,
calculation.
'cause I know a lot of people
What's that?
last bill.
But for most people, they're on tier two. There's no doubt about that, most
It's
people.
$215 for sewer.
So the average residential user is $215 twice a year, and then $281 is the average residential
Yeah,
user
just-
for water twice a year. So that's about, what's that, 3.6?
$501 twice a year.
I just remember
No,
hearing
total?
a ton of
Yeah,
people
but
saying
about-
the last bill was in the $800 to $1,000.
Well, some are, obviously, there's one bill that's higher, we bill twice a year, and there's
Yeah.
one that's lower, but your average user for water and sewer is about a little over $1,000
That
Right.
makes sense.
on an average tier user, and I think that makes up a big percentage of.
Any other questions?
I have 3 questions.
Go ahead, Steve.
Mr. Abrams, we're issuing 2.5 million in debt? Is that what we're doing?
Sorry, you said?
The 2.5 million in debt you mentioned, are we
Yeah.
issuing that all at once?
No.
No.
That would be the total that I have for the, if you were to add up the 26 amount through the FY 30 amount, it equals 2.5
So
million.
that's over the 5 years.
That's what you would be paying back in debt over that time period.
Assuming interest rates are the same, you probably use the flat line for interest rates, I would assume.
I believe I use 4.5%, I'll check right now for you.
Which is probably conservative,
Yeah, 4.5%.
because some of the stuff we have special, borrowing and other stuff.
Mr. Manager, do you think that the new water meters will be favorable to the town, meaning we'll get an accurate reading and bills would probably be higher? Or do you think it's the opposite?
So my general knowledge of it is that the meters, after they become a certain age, which the ones we have now are past the useful life, that they actually slow down a little bit, so they don't get all the readings. So generally, when they do meter replacement, it becomes more accurate, so there might be an increase. And, you know, obviously, you know, this is gonna be over the next 2-year period that we're gonna be replacing the water meters. But really, it's, I think the big thing for us, out of all this, is the last 2 years with the actual usage is down. So when the usage is down and we projected this much usage, it has a huge impact on what we bring for revenues, and then it creates a different issue with offsetting expenses. But, yeah, I would say it's gonna be more accurate. So, and again, you understand accounting, right? If you're converting from one accounting system to another, you can build the whole system while the other one's working, and then you can then go live with everything all set up, you can run it for a while. This is gonna be much more challenging because we're gonna be running 2 systems at the same time, trying to do billing and all that with 2 different systems as we transition, so it's gonna be complicated. It's something that happens over a 1.5 year period of time, up to 2 years.
My last question,
Yeah.
do we need a water and sewer commission? Would that benefit the town?
I think it would be great, but I think the finance committee has done a great job of making financial decisions. I think town meeting overall and the selectmen, since we've been here 14 years, I think has gotten more understandable, rather less political and more financial. But obviously a water and sewer commission is another step away from politics and elected officials that make the decisions, because ultimately the town meeting is an elected body. They're making decisions on the water rates, and the selectmen are another elected body, they're making things. So, I mean, I don't know, when I was on the selectmen years ago, there was selectmen that would campaign on, I've never voted for a sewer rate increase. And then, as you know, the only thing that bailed the sewer out is we had that I&I lawsuit, and when I was on the board, I pushed to appeal the appeals decision that wasn't favorable to us, they called it a fee, and we won that at the SJC. And so the town retained about, I don't know, $1.8 million that we're able to sort of adjust and regulate the sewer. And otherwise, if we didn't do that, I mean, there's communities that we know of that are having, you know, double-digit increases because of, you know, I mean, if you read the papers, I mean, over the years, Winthrop, all these places, Swampscott, the same thing goes on over there. But I think, to answer your question, is I think a water and sewer commission would be great. But people have to be willing to support that. The selectmen, elected officials, and the town meeting that are elected officials have to be willing to support creating something like that where they let go of that control. And I'm not, you know, I'm not the guy that's gonna go do it. I think I'm happy to support it, but I think the DOR, everybody thinks that makes sense. I think even the DOR talked about, you know, at one point combining the 2 enterprise accounts, and I think that's somehow good and bad. I think that any change we do would be sort of debated and controversial, so you'd have to have a bunch of group of people that are involved in government wanting to make those changes, not one person presenting it. But I think a water and sewer commission, it takes it one more removed, I think, and they make better financial decisions. That's why you guys always make a financial decision, less political,
Thank you.
if that makes sense.
Sure, thank you.
There's no bad guy or good guys, everybody says, well, you know, I mean, there's nothing that we have that hasn't gone up. Things cost more, and that gets affected within the rates, you know what I mean, like, for us too, expenses, maintenance, salaries, all that.
Thank you. Okay, so we have these 3 options in front of us. When I was in our meeting, I could have asked Matt to do 1 to 4%, but after looking at the 5%, you knew that 4% was just unrealistic, and it just wasn't even gonna get anywhere close to doing the job. So, when he put together these three and we went over it, it's my opinion that, and I'm favorable to a 6% increase recommendation. The town meeting, that'll keep us at, if projections come through, yes, we're using, 149,000 of retained earnings to support this recommendation. But, we should have at least 440 to maybe 500,000 in certified retained earnings, which would at least keep us at 50% of our retained goal of 10%. So,
And that's $17 average.
yeah, the overall would,
Twice
for
a
the
year.
average tier 2 would be 34 annually. So, it's not a big ouch to the great users. It keeps us in the ball game. And
And we
I
can
myself.
adjust next year.
Yeah,
if things
and I
go
think maybe the 6% to go this year and see where we get next year. You never know where that's gonna be, but that would be my opinion. I think 6%. I don't know if anybody feels the same. They wanna make a motion or whatever they wanna do.
Mr. Chairman, has town meeting ever changed what we recommended?
They have.
Yes.
So that's more becomes
They
more
have.
problematic, because if you go lower, everybody wants to,
We made a recommendation once in
They
that
took a
show,
zero.
they took it down to a 0, which in turn really put us behind the 8 ball because it's not just for that year,
take a look here.
it's for subsequent
Yes.
years.
See the
That
zero?
was the
Oh,
COVID,
that's
that was the COVID year.
So,
And I think we recommended 3%.
Yeah,
Like I was-
3.5.
Yeah, it wasn't, it was smaller than we typically would have.
so that's, that's a pendulum there that you have to
Yeah, we
be
usually have
cognizant
Always
of.
recommended, and
So,
then FinCom.
does anybody wanna make a motion for the 6%?
I'll make a motion for 6%.
So the motion's been made for 6%, I'll second it, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6% carries. Matt, thank you so much, thank you, company. I just wanna make one statement, so for the benefit of the people on television, because they didn't get a chance to really see it, but your projections over 10 years have been really spot on. You can see from the chart that you gave us, that your projections on revenue and expenses have been consistent, and we thank you for that. You've been very accurate.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, sure.
Be safe driving home.
Well, we get some flowers if you want. They have a
Oh,
garden club
Yeah.
upstairs.
flowers are my thing.
All kinds of stuff.
Are we voting on the budgeted amount now with that?
We already did, now we're gonna do the water enterprise fund, budget, which reflects the recommendation of the 6%. Thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome.
Don't know what we would do without you, Wendy.
Well, you might be able to find out, just kidding.
We don't wanna find out. Okay, so,
Yeah, you don't
let
have
me
it in
read,
Is it somewhere in this thing? Yeah.
Yeah, the budget is, but not. Thank you.
Second motion.
Article 6, to see what sum of money the town will vote to raise and appropriate for the water enterprise fund for the ensuing fiscal year of 2026. With the increase that we're recommending, the total amount would be $8,806,883. Sources of funding would be $8,657,578 from the water revenue user charges, those there are from the rates, rate that is, and $149,305 from certified retained earnings as of 7/1/24. So as we spoke about it, we are using retained earnings. We're not increasing to 100% to cover that amount, we are subsidizing it. So can I have a motion for that, please?
So moved.
Motion's been made, seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Passes. With that, correct me if I'm not mistaken, Wendy, we have completed all our business for the finance committee.
Yes,
Are you
that,
sure?
So,
You should check every article, let's just make sure.
yeah, just check every article to make sure, but I believe we have, because I checked mine
Just
off
check the
as we
warrant.
go.
We don't want to wait for me.
I have them highlighted, 2, 6, 7, and 11.
Nothing with that. Any other zonings?
Those are all the zones. The other financial article was referred and then back to the maker for the $10,000.
Okay. Before I get a motion to adjourn, I want to thank everybody, I always do, but it's important for everybody in town to know how much you guys contribute and sacrifice. I want to thank you all for attending. We've had a great season. We've done all our work. Town meeting is happy with our recommendations, and hopefully they'll continue to be happy.
So,
I
Mr.
hope
Chairman,
everybody has a nice summer, and a safe summer, and a healthy summer. And, yes, Mr.
I
Mayor.
just wanted to say through you, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank everybody, the chairman and all of you, Wendy, Donna, the moderator, everybody for all the time and effort you guys put into this. You know, we've been here a long time, a lot of you guys have been here a long time, we've been through changes and learning and doing things, but in all honesty, the town is in such great financial standing because of cooperation and the collegiate collaboration with the finance committee and myself and Wendy and Donna, and being able to bring that to the town meeting and being able to have financial management policies that we never had, capital plans, and just the way that the town has moved in such a great direction. I think financially that we're able to fight over what playgrounds we're gonna fix and building fire stations and all that stuff. I just think it's wonderful, and I want to appreciate everybody's efforts and dedication to the town, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, and thank Donna and Wendy and the entire staff. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?